Hi, so today I'll talk about the most terrifying and suffocating person that I've ever met through matrimonial. Also, the reason why my parents are so understanding and I don't exactly have pressure because they understand that these things cannot be rushed into, and you really have to do a lot of, you have to give it time basically. And people are a lot different from what they claim to be on a matrimonial site. I was also very much very naive. I just thought that, I came with a certain amount of truth. When I say certain, I mean I definitely came with truth. And I thought, why will people lie? Obviously. I was very stupid at the time, and very gullible. I was very gullible at the time. And all of these things changed after this episode. This was not the first one, but it was in the initial days. It was in the, I think, within the first year itself. First year or first 6 months of, creating a profile, definitely. Um, so this person was someone who was based in Dubai, who was originally from Mumbai. He had family living in Mumbai. I was working in Mumbai at the time. So this is, that's he sent me a request. I connected. I was going on holiday to Goa, so I had like a week off. We connected that night. We spoke. I went home. Horoscopes were matched. I'm just really running through it because there's a lot to cover, and this is going to be a slightly longer video, so you can stick around if you really want to know how it all went down. So yeah, so horoscopes were matched. Everything came fine. Came out okay. Like there was a green signal, and we spoke for about every day. Yeah, we spoke the whole week when I was at home. Obviously, I didn't have anything else to do. Then when I came home, I'm sorry, when I got back to office, obviously I was at work, so I couldn't take as many calls. And a couple of things happened which should have been red flags, but I was so stupid and naive, and I thought, well, this is what happens. According to me at the time, I had zero relationship experience at the time. No relationships. As I said, I was terrified of relationships, so I always avoided and would run in the opposite direction. So this was the first interaction, closest thing to a relationship that I had. And I've always seen people on the phone, so I thought, hey, yeah, the person calls, you answer. There was really nothing. He was just saying something, and I would respond back. And for me, one of the important things was that you have to be a friend. No matter what relationship you have, the basis of that, the base should always be friendship, because that, I think, helps you to open up and build on whatever relationship it is. Yeah, so yeah, the base should be friendship. So this person was someone who just went into a husband mode as soon as we connected. And when I said the horoscopes match and all of that, so my family knew everything about it. His family knew nothing. He had not told them anything. He was also kind of holding back because I think there was a fight or some argument which he had with his parents, and he had left and he was living alone. I'm really going fast through this, but yeah. So when I was in Goa, he would call, I would answer. That was the whole setup. When I got back to work, obviously I couldn't answer his calls at all times, and I noticed that he was starting to get a little controlling. No, very controlling. There were small things at the beginning, but later on they started growing, and then I was just getting really, really suffocated, and I started having nightmares that I was running away from the mandap, and like not once or twice, recurring nightmares that he's coming from some place and I'm just running away from him, and I would wake up in sweat. It was that bad. It had that impact, that much of an impact on my mind. Also, when I came back from Goa, there was a laptop at my at in Mumbai. So and this was a time when there was no WhatsApp. There were emails, there was phones, and there was that Yahoo Messenger. So I got on Yahoo Messenger, and I saw him for the first time after a week of talking to him. Before that was just photographs. So on Yahoo Messenger, we did a video chat, and in that video chat, we were talking, and then he says something. He says, "Hey, can you do one thing? Can you stand up?" And never in my life have I felt so much so objectified. He said, stand up. And, at that time, in my mind, it was like, okay, horoscopes have matched. There's nothing really wrong with this guy. So there's no way, there's no reason for me to say no. So I have to go ahead with this. This is it. This is going to be my husband. I am locked in this relationship. That was my mindset. So then I stood, and then he's like, hey, turn around. I turned around. It was the most humiliating moment ever, but I thought, I'm a slave. That is how I felt, actually, that he had that controlling power over me, and I didn't have a reason to say no. What could I tell my parents? That, hey, these are the things, I'm not comfortable with it, or I don't know what a relationship should be like. So I was just going with it. I would do everything that he would tell me. And there was nothing more than that, but yeah, that's how it started. And then he would ask me a couple of things. Like, as I said, it was mentally very traumatic period of my life. I had nightmares on a regular basis, nightmares that I'm running away from the pandal or whatever it was, multiple 2-3 different scenarios. And there was definitely an intervention from God, I'm telling you, because as I progress, you will know why I'm saying that this ended. It was very, very difficult. And so once he asked me, hey, what are you wearing? So I said, I'm wearing a kurta, the kurtas which don't have dupattas, just the kurta pajama. So I said, I'm wearing that. And then he was like, okay. Then another time he asked me, I was wearing something similar. And I said, yeah, I'm wearing that. I'm wearing a kurta pajama. Then he's like, you don't know what's a dupatta? And I was like a little shocked. I'm like, no, you get this pajama kurta set. You don't really need a dupatta on this. I had to give explanations for things, something as stupid as this. And the reason I'm talking about is because a lot of times you may just end up in a relationship which starts with small little things. You have to be aware about it if you're not comfortable. And there was this person here who was trying to put himself in the center of my life. He wanted me to ask him or take his opinion in every little decision that I made. Something even as small as, hey, what should I eat today? I was at lunch in the cafeteria and he called me and he's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm having lunch. What are you having? I said, certain thing. He's like, is that the only thing they're serving? I said, no, there are like 2-3 things. He's like, you didn't ask me, what do you want to eat? I said, excuse me? I just wanted to take a meal and just finish it. So that was the first time. So there are these things which are just hitting my coming up right now. So, and there are other things. So he wanted me to take his opinion on every little thing, like from what I was going to wear to eat to where I'm going. And then I asked him, one day I really got irritated. And then I said, hey, you know what? I've been living independently for almost 4 years. I've been making every decision for myself. So you can't really force yourself or expect that I will ask you for anything, every little thing. So just understand that I'm an independent working woman. You can't just force yourself. If you want me to ask you or take your opinion, I could do that, but don't expect me to do that in every little thing. So there was this slowly, steadily, this controlling aspect coming in. He was also complaining. Once when I was talking to him, there was a guy talking in the background and he's like, who's that guy? So jealousy, very controlling nature. And I was starting to feel suffocated. There were these nightmares which are happening. And so when we were talking about each other's backgrounds, he had also mentioned that he knows this guy from Goa and he gave a name. And that person is someone from a high profile family. I mean, from a family which is known in Goa. And he said that guy is his cousin. Now, luckily for me, as I said, it was just intended by God. There has to be some supernatural element in this bit. Otherwise, I would not have made it out of this. So that person happened to be a student in the same college that I went to, and my mother is a college professor in that same college. She was a professor, she's retired now, but so she knew that guy. So she reached out to him and she asked him, hey, do you know this guy? He's your cousin? He's like, no, he's not my cousin. I just play cricket with him. So this guy had been lying about a lot of things. If this was like the the single lie which I can single out right now, there were a lot of things that he had lied about. Also, another thing which happened was I just had his photo open on my desktop once because he sent me his picture, and just incidentally, like, he's from Mumbai, but Mumbai there are like a million, over a million people, right? But my colleague was able to identify him, and he's like, hey, he's that guy, he's my cousin's neighbor. And I was like, oh really, can you get some more details about him, because I don't know, and I'm talking to him, I'm not very happy, but there's no really reason for me to say no to him, so can you just find out more about him? So that was also another thing that, like, imagine what are the chances of someone in Mumbai spotting this guy just sitting like 2 desks away from me. And she came back and she said that, hey, I don't think he's even graduated. And so he told me he's a bachelor's in science or something like that. And she said he's not even graduated. He just dropped out of college, and then I think he joined a call center, and somehow he just changed jobs, fought with his family, went to Dubai. That's where he was living. So I was like, okay, fine, a lie. So I can definitely tell my parents that, you know what, and all of these pieces were moving in different, they were moving in tandem. So towards the fag end, and I was talking to him for like a month. That is a month of hell. Burn in my memory. I will, it has left a little bit of trauma, because I've never been so controlled in my life. My parents have, let me be. They've let me become my own individual. And this person, dealing with this person was very, very difficult. So then I called my parents, and then I told him that, you know what, this person has been lying. And so I listed out the lies about his qualification, and mom also said that that guy is not his cousin. I said, okay, of course he's not his cousin. He's been lying about a lot of things, and I feel suffocated. There is nothing between us, that I'm not even basically attracted to him. Like, isn't that like basic of anything? Like, if I'm going to marry him and we have to spend a life together, I said I will adjust. I know marriage is adjustment. This is what I told my parents. I know marriage is adjustments, but I think that is when you feel like you want to adjust for the person, not because you have to adjust for the person that you're getting married to. And so she passed the phone to my dad, and my dad is like, and I remember this moment when I was having this conversation. I was on the platform in Mumbai, and when my dad said, you know what, we are with you, we support you, go ahead and do what you want, you don't have to do this. And I also, before that, the conversation started with, you know what, I know the horoscope matched and all of this thing matched, but there are these flaws, this lie, all of that. And then they were like, okay, yeah, of course, go ahead, we're with you. And I felt like a cage was open and the bird just flew out of it. That was the feeling that I got, and I will never forget it. It was very traumatic for me to not live, but it was almost like he was living in my head too much. And he made me tell him that I love him. I didn't. I mean, he's like, tell me you love me. And I had to tell him that I love him. And for me, it meant a lot to say that I love someone. So it was, So let me just wrap it up. Net. I think I escaped something which could have definitely gotten much worse, because and this is when my parents realized that I was doing this for them, because I had no idea about what a relationship should be like. And when I said horoscopes match, what was I going to tell you? That I don't want to marry him because what is the reason? That I just don't exactly. Eventually I ended up saying that there's no attraction, there's nothing, I don't feel anything, and how suffocated I feel, and they understood. But it took me some time to get there. But definitely, if you're going through an arranged marriage setup, have your parents on your side, talk to them, because that definitely wasn't there for me. And then after this incident, they understood where I'm coming from, and then they also understood that if it's for them, because it was all what I was doing was for them, because they wanted me to get married. So they said, no, you don't have to do this. That's not how it should be. So that was very freeing for me. And I'm not sure if I've really talked about the whole traumatic experience. I don't need to, but yeah, just be careful if you are talking to somebody. Don't let them demean you. Definitely should not be treating you like an object. Should treat you like a person. Don't be I can't say don't be gullible or naive. That's just a person and how you are. But this taught me a lot, that definitely don't trust anyone. Don't trust that everybody who puts a profile out there is as truthful and honest as you are, because they're not. You have to ask questions, you have to really get to know the person, and yes, base it on friendship. That's very important for me, and I think it should be as well. That's it. I don't want to elaborate much more on this, but yeah, that was the first and the most traumatic experience I ever had on a matrimonial site. Oh, I have to tell you this. I have to tell you how I told him no, and how was it, what was the reaction like. It's gone over 15 minutes, but yeah. So I called him. I was very, very happy that day. Like, I felt like I gained my freedom again. So I called him, and like, I would give him a missed call and he would call me back. That was his arrangement. So anyway, I called him and I said, hey, you know what? I'm not marrying you. We're not getting married. He's like, why? I said, there are a lot of reasons, because the whole time I always kept telling him, try to be my friend, try to be my friend. He's like, why? And I said, there's too many reasons to list. He's like, okay. And that's it. And then he's like, okay, wait, can we be friends? I said, if you want to be friends, I have been telling you to be my friend from day one, but you never could do it. I don't think we can be friends. I don't want to stay in touch with you at all. So that was it. That was the end of the conversation. But, sorry, I just remembered. A couple of years later, when WhatsApp came, he still had my number, and he messaged me years later, and I still remember the chill that I've felt in my spine when I saw his message. He said, hey. I said, who's this? And I'd forgotten him, and then I went and saw his DP, and I realized who he was, and I was just absolutely terrified again in that moment. And he's like, no, I know you, and I know you remember me, and I spent so much money on calls, and if I had I could have spent that much money on a prostitute here. And I'm like, oh god, in that moment I was like, I'm so glad. And I was just, I really escaped from something really big, I think. And like, imagine a person who says that I spent so much money on calling you, and instead of that I could have spent that money on prostitutes, not like donating to some charity. That was the thought process of that individual. So anyway, I think that's it. I'll wrap this up. I hope nobody has to go through this. Nobody should go through this.